I'm Scott Simi, Chief Content Editor with Indro Robotics, and on today's edition of our Sound Byte micro podcast, I'm joined by Dan Juhlin, who's known and highly respected in the RPAS field in Canada and also very tall. Welcome, Dan.
Thanks, Scott. It's great to be here today.
Now, listen, you wear several hats. One of them is Business Development Lead, Government and Defense with Calgary's AERIUM Analytics. Tell us a bit about what you do there.
My main focus is on the provision of airport services for military airfields. AERIUM has a runway marking tool that is powered by machine learning. They also do edge lights, drainage, and foreign object debris detection, and of course, wildlife management using Robird.
Now, you were also AERIUM's Director of Regulatory Compliance for nearly 3 years. So I'm guessing it's fair to say you're also known as a regs expert, yeah?
Yes, I've been working heavily with Transport Canada since before Cars Part 9 came out. There are some people in Canada who would call me that.
When and why did you first get interested in drones?
I got into it by accident. I was a spatial modeler, remote sensing guy working for an oil major, and my supervisor mentioned drones and showed them to me. I immediately saw the value. It was the data that got me. I was just a nerd looking for better data. I ended up flying for Synovus for 3 years.
We've seen a lot of technical developments, regulatory progress, and new use cases since you first began in the field. What does that tell you about the industry overall and its future?
I've been saying for well over a decade that we are just getting started, and I feel like we are still just getting started. We will continue to see the blurring of lines between crewed and uncrewed aviation. And, not too long from now, that plane flying overhead may or may not have a pilot on it.
New Transport Canada RPAS regulations went into effect November 4th of 2025, and key among the many changes is the ability for operators with a pilot certificate level 1 complex, along with an RPAS operator certificate, to carry out routine low risk beyond visual line of sight flights. What does this mean to the industry?
The main benefit here is the unlocking of routine BV loss, which in its early days here will mostly be imaging of linear infrastructure and a lot of remote monitoring, but it is a signal in the maturity of the industry that the door to realistic logistics using drones, so delivery of goods and cargo by drone, is about to become a reality for Canada and not just a pipe dream.
Included in those regulations is the requirement on these low risk BVLOS flights for some sort of detect and avoid solution. Now, you can use visual observers, but if it's a longer range mission, that becomes pretty impractical. Now, some in the industry are suggesting the best solution might be electronic conspicuity, specifically the mandating of ADS-B out on low-flying traditional aircraft. Any thoughts on that?
The solution is going to have to be robust and layered, and no single technology is going to be the silver bullet that we think it is. So, an ADS-B mandate for low-flying traditional aircraft, I think, is a good idea overall, but it needs to also include ADS-B out on maybe the drones over 25 kilo.
We've also got the world of advanced air mobility on its way, with generally sustainable aircraft that can fly longer ranges, carry more cargo, including people, and service remote areas that don't have the infrastructure for traditional aviation. We might even someday have flying taxis in major urban centers at some point. What are your thoughts when you look ahead to that future?
I think the future with advanced air mobility is rather exciting. We always look at this as a separate part of aviation, but in fact, drones and advanced air mobility are just two sides of the same coin, right? It's modern aircraft doing novel things. And let's be honest, a lot of the AAM aircraft in development have a lot more to do with drones than they do with traditional aircraft. So it's going to change things significantly. I think we will see it to the benefit of the rural parts of the country. People may become less dependent on living in urban environments because the distances suddenly become less important. So, advanced air mobility will be great for rural economic development.
Now, in addition to your work at AERIUM, you recently launched your own business, Juhlin Remote Pilot Consulting. Tell us about it, including what kind of services you're offering.
So my main clients, twofold. One is manufacturers, and specifically helping manufacturers with regulatory compliance for bringing new products into Canada. The majority of the work that I'm doing is in the, let's call it group two, 12 kilo up to 150 kilo kind of class. So at the fore edge of what the regulations allow. The second cohort of my clientele is more on the enterprise program side of things. So helping large enterprise drone programs with both scaling as well as program optimization.
And how's it been going so far?
The industry response has been overwhelmingly positive, and I am very excited for the next 2 years.
I'm curious if there are any other areas of your expertise that clients are tapping on.
There have been some clients that do want my assistance with spatial data, specifically with drones. Um, there's even one client that really likes my brand presence on LinkedIn, and they want me to help them with their brand presence. It's interesting though, the majority of customers that have come knocking have not been Canadian companies. It's mostly been international attention.
We don't normally touch on people's personal lives, but you've got a pretty interesting one. Now, I'm not sure if homesteader is the right word, but you live in a rural area, you blacksmith, you grow food. Tell us a bit about this life and why it appeals to you.
Scott, I could wax eloquent about, you can't understand the future without understanding the past and all of that sort of stuff. But the fact is, it just helps me stay grounded. We're in such a high tech field, and getting out and doing stuff with your hands uh, helps remove the clutter from the mind. So that's why I do it,
Hmm.
right? Like I said, I have a big garden. I blacksmith. Um, I've got an orchard. We grow our own meat. Yeah, it's just it's a lifestyle thing, right? And it just helps me feel like I'm well grounded.
Can I come visit sometime?
I think we could probably make that happen. Yeah.
That would be awesome. So, listen, how can potential clients get in touch with you?
The best way is probably on LinkedIn. That's where I am most active. There's also my website, www.juhlin.ca. And of course, I'm not, I'm not a super stranger or anything. Feel free to, grab the number off the website, give me a call, throw me a text. Always down for a good conversation.
Dan Juhlin of Juhlin Remote Pilot Consulting and AERIUM Analytics, thanks so much for your time.
Thanks, Scott. It's been a pleasure.